All right. Okay, well, welcome to the Brown Bag Lunch and Learn about GIS. My name is Matt Boyk. I'm the GIS coordinator for Story County, and what I plan to do today is talk a little bit about myself, just quickly, and a little of my experience. Also talk a little bit about what GIS is. If you kind of have an idea, I'll try to help maybe explain a little bit better. And then talk about how Story County uses it, some other examples. Yeah, I'm willing to answer any questions, and I'll have my email address at the end too if you want to contact me. And then I'll also have Leanne Harder, who's helping drive. I'll ask her to demo some live websites, and we'll hope that'll go well. So should be great. So anyway, go. So a little bit about me. My name is Matt Boyk, like I said. I received my bachelor's degree from Iowa State in community and regional planning back in 2000. So not that long ago, just a little bit ago. I worked for several years for a company called ProMap Corporation. They were a small company based in Ames. I kind of did that during college and after. My clients throughout the Midwest, we helped them convert from paper to digital. Most people are converted now, but back in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, there were still people that had paper maps, and that's all they had. So we had to convert them to GIS to a digital based mapping system. And that company, ProMap Corporation, was purchased by a company called the Schneider Corporation. They're our current makers of the Beacon website, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but that's our most popular site. And in between there, I was a Mahaska County GIS IT coordinator, which is in Southeast Iowa. Oskaloosa is the county seat. And then I've been the GIS coordinator at Story County since April of 2006. So over 17 years, and I've been working with GIS since 1998, which is 25 years, which is kind of unbelievable. So anyway, next slide. Okay, so what is GIS? It's Geographic Information Systems. So it's a spatial system that creates, manages, analyzes, and maps all types of data. So, when I'm explaining to people who don't know what I do, basically just digital maps or maps on computers. Now, honestly, smartphones have helped so much. Back in the day before smartphones, it took me a little while to, explain what I did. And it was, maybe a little bit harder. And now with Google Maps, Apple Maps, iPhones, Android phones, it's a lot easier. So I appreciate that. We use a lot of data at Story County. Some of the main layers that we use are parcels, road center lines, address points, voting precinct, zoning, emergency response, aerial photography, anything else. It'd be impossible for me to list. There'd be hundreds of layers that we have. And so basically GIS is a series of layers that you can turn them on and off. You can see how they interact with each other. There's tabular data involved with everything. Go to the next slide. I think will help. Well, I guess before we get into that, we'll talk about who uses GIS. The assessor's office uses it mostly for valuation purposes and parcel boundaries. Auditor's office, also parcel boundaries, ownership, a lot of voting information, environmental health for septic systems, and planning for properties, development, people building new homes or doing any sort of development, secondary roads, bridges, and road quality, culverts, locations, signs, all the signage out there. Conservation has become a really heavy user here. Recently, in the past couple of years, a lot of park information, and they're grabbing a lot of also data of work that they do in the park system and capture that. And they're using a lot of mobile options. They have it on their phones or tablets, and they go out and collect data, look at data, analyze things while they're out there, because they don't, they're out in the field. Conservation people are doing work, in the county. So having that mobile access to the data is really nice. Emergency management, a lot of planning, mitigation, local cities starting to do a lot more. A lot of them have, an engineering company that serves as their city engineer. So we have to provide them with data. And a lot of times I've acted as the go-between between the city and and the county engineer, or the engineer that's doing the work. Ames does a lot of work with GIS. They do a lot of neat things. They have a lot of information on their website as well. Some of their really cool things are their fire hydrant flushing, where you can see basically a live map of the map flushing of the fire hydrants that they get to, which is neat. So, and also the last one there on the list is you. You might not know that you're a GIS user, but you probably are. Or if you try to get a mortgage or you do anything with Wells Fargo or anything property related, they use the site to help you out and get access to your information. So, all right, let's go to the next slide here. Okay, so I kind of got into this before a little bit, just a quick screenshot here. GIS is basically what we like to call geometry. So these are shapes. These are digital lines. They have points, endpoints. We can have either points, lines like you're seeing here, or polygons. Polygons would take up an area. And each of those features has a table behind it. So that screenshot on the right there is information about one of those roads. So I clicked on one of those roads and this popped up. So this is the left from, left to, right from, right to. That's like the address range, what addresses can be on this road. A city, the pre-direction. There's, sometimes there's a west, like this is West First Street. Some don't have that. And there's just a ton of other information that we have. The surface type, city road, if it's a minor collector, if it has an alternate name, like this one is also known as E63 that goes through town. So yeah, so there's just a ton of information. Our parcels information has like ownership information, assessment, taxes, all that type of data. Let's go to the next slide and see what we got here. So we can also use those layers to interact with each other. So for like in a spatial analysis type of function, on the screenshot on the left there's a parcel data, which are the black outlines. And the ones with the blue outlines are selected because they were the ones that crossed the flood zone that's behind there, another polygon layer. So we're able to just fairly quickly make a selection, say, hey, I want to select all the parcels that intersect this flood layer. And then boom, you have it in the table there on the bottom there. So if we're doing mitigation, we're saying, hey, what if this creek gets out of its bounds? Or what if, such and such happens? Then we can look at all the parcels and say, hey, we're dealing with kind of, a big event here. And since we have a lot of information in that table, we can start to do just regular summation. You can sum all the property values together. So you can say, hey, there's 100 parcels that are affected with this event. Building value is in 1 million, maybe it's $2 million, maybe it's $10 million. So you can kind of see, what you're getting into. And the assessor's office also tracks like building counts, or you kind of maybe do some estimation of like how many structures might be affected, things like that. And we've done other events with like tornado path, like, hey, what if a tornado goes through this area? Or, maybe after the event, we can survey the damage and draw those boundaries and then select all the parcels that were affected by that. And then the map on the right there is a facility that has like fertilizer, I think it is. And if it's, if something would happen there, this is in Gilbert, what kind of, we're looking at like a couple different buffers, like, well, what if something happens really close, or what if something is 2,000 feet away? We can start to see how it affects the citizens, how close it is to the school. The nice thing about this mapping software is it has really neat icons like, like little schoolhouses and things like that. So you can kind of, so the general user doesn't understand it, or just by looking at it, you can say, hey, that's a schoolhouse. That probably means that there's a school there or something like that. So I think that's pretty cool. Let's go to the next slide and talk a little bit about tabular queries. So like I said before, there's a geometry aspect to GIS. There's the shapes that can interact with each other and how they overlap, they contain each other, if they intersect each other. But we can also start to do, we can dig into the tabular data and we can just make queries. If anybody, basically you're building a sentence here. You don't need to be a programmer. You don't need to know SQL or any of these other languages. It's pretty basic. You just basically build a sentence like, hey, I'm going to do a new selection here where, okay, this property class is equal to R. So that means I want to select residential properties, and then we'll do the assessed total value is greater than $100,000. Like maybe we just want to, for whatever research we're doing, we just want to pare it down and filter out just those that we're concerned with. And then once you do that, all the data is selected in the table. So you have, basically an Excel spreadsheet or whatever, if you're familiar with how that looks. You can work with that. You can export that out. You can share that with people. But it all happens relatively quickly. So it's a pretty powerful tool. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so I've talked a little bit about the shapes and the tabular data. I also want to touch on raster data. So raster data is, if you imagine like pixels and small pixels, and each of those pixels has a value, basically like a digital photograph. I mean, everyone's kind of familiar with that. But so in the upper right is a traditional kind of top-down, what we call orthophotography, because it's basically just a top-down view. We've been using orthophotos for at least maybe 30 years now. I'm trying to think. It's been a very helpful layer for a lot of what Story County does. And I can say all these layers that I've used, I think aerial photography is the one that like everybody uses. I don't think, I mean, there's always, everybody just wants to see what it looks like. They just want to see what are we looking at here? How many buildings? What do the roads look like? All that kind of stuff. And the county assessor and the Ames assessor, periodically, either every 2 years, every 3 years, we get new photography flown. We purchased that through a vendor, and they actually fly basically twin prop planes. I mean, it's not drones yet, and it's not satellites. So not that there's not any use for that. That is definitely there's accurate information and really good information that comes from that. But just want to let you know that that's how we capture all of our data. And the company that we've flown with in the past is a company called Eagle View, and they have this product called Pictometry, which is the screenshot on the left there, which is relatively new. It's a newer technology that gives you kind of what they call a bird's eye view, so you can see like the side of the home, you can see the windows, and you can see all four sides of it as well. So you can you understand the property a lot better. You can know so much about a property before even going out there or doing whatever you need to do. So I think that's pretty neat. And that's available on the Beacon website too, for the public. So if anybody wants to look at that, that's available. And then the lower right is a DEM, I believe, which is a digital elevation model. So each of those pixels, instead of scoring like an RGB value, like a color to make a digital photo, it's storing information about the elevation. So, how high is it? How steep is it? So when you're looking at a traditional photo, like in the upper right, you can kind of see elevation, maybe not though. I mean, if Iowa in Story County is pretty flat, so maybe some of those areas don't stick out as much. But in the lower right, when you see that data, oh yeah, you can definitely see the river going through there. You can see the kind of the hilly terrain. So anyway, that's just another layer that we have, and some more data that we have access to. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, I want to show a little bit. First of all, just a screenshot of our Beacon website. And we'll show that live too after my presentation. We can just show it, and those that aren't familiar with it. There is a lot of information on there. We've just yesterday, in fact, we had a new module created by the Schneider Corporation that will show more detailed drainage district information. So like, what they owe on this, the payments. It's really new, so I can't remember everything that's in there, but I know it's one of those things that it's kind of been in the works. We should have done it in the past, but it's just the way it worked out that the auditor's office, treasurer's office, and myself were all involved in that and work with that, and we think that's pretty neat. But if you haven't looked at the Beacon website, there's just up at the top, there's just kind of a general summary of it, owner information. We have a lot of links to other data, like the property record card, which is just a PDF that gets pulled up. And also, you can see it on the lower right there, or on the right one, there's the tax statements as well. So all the tax statements, you can pay property taxes, just detailed information about the value, taxation. Pretty much anything you want to know is here, and it's handy. It's 24/7, 365. So yeah, anytime you want to look at something, it's really helpful information. But okay, let's go to the next slide. We'll talk a little bit also about some other custom GIS apps or GIS applications. So we have a subdivision search. It's that one kind of in the upper, right up in the upper top there with that orange polygon. The recorder's office was approached by an engineer several years ago and saying, hey, Dallas County has this way to access all of the PDFs of the detailed survey of the subdivision. So Stacy and I, the recorder, and I worked together to get a solution for this. Their staff worked really hard to scan in. They're all large format. Like some of them are old and dusty and crusty. So that was a challenge taking those through the large format scanner, but I think we did a pretty good job. So they scanned in pretty much everything. I think there's not much missing from there, but that's an example of Bellawood subdivision, which is in Northwest Ames. We'll show that live, but you can basically just search for a subdivision. And we took this off of Beacon. Beacon has a lot of information, but this is its own website because it's just kind of targeted for, for this one purpose. So it's kind of the balance that we have to do, because we can put everything on Beacon, but then it'll start to get not very user friendly because there's just absolutely everything in one spot. So it's kind of a balance, I guess. We're just trying to do our best, make the best choices. But these sites that I'm listing here are separate, and they're on their own. They're custom ones that I created in-house. But yeah, so the subdivision search, you search for the name of the subdivision, comes up, zooms you to it, and then you click on a link, and then it brings up the PDF of that. And the engineers that use it absolutely love it, and they're really happy. Kind of in the center of the screen is a polling place finder. I know there's a lot of ways to find where you vote. I know the state, I think, Democrats, Republican parties, I think, have their own solution. Secretary of State's office. But, we just thought, well, we'll do our own too, just to maybe we can at least control it and have a little more information, because on our site, when you click it, you can get a photo of what the place looks like, and just some other more detailed information, a lot of local information. You can see, the local maps behind it. So we'll show that as well. That's pretty handy around election time. In the lower left screenshot is a sex offender living requirements, 2,000 feet from daycare. We still update those. We still have daycares and schools that change. So we have to keep those updated periodically. And then another one in the lower right is that conservation parks map. That's actually one that we need to kind of revisit and stuff again. But we're trying to make a kind of a public portal for the public to look at and get all the parks information that they want. Just a countywide map with all the information. So those are kind of a couple custom GIS apps that I've been working on lately. All right, go to the next slide. Okay, so another way, or I guess another technology tied with GIS is GPS, which people are pretty familiar with, global positioning systems. And actually, technically, if I'll get a little nerdy here, GPS isn't the term appropriate anymore. It's GNSS, Global Navigation Satellite System, but no one's going to use that. Everyone knows GPS, so I just keep saying GPS. But anyway, so we have a couple departments that are using a lot of these screenshots are from environmental health. Matt Corey helped me get these together. But we are using what's called an RTK network, and it's provided by the DOT. So for us, it's completely free. It's a statewide, and RTK is real-time kinematic. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I would lie and say something, but I'm not gonna. I'm not sure what it means. But basically, it's just it's constantly available, and they strive for sub-centimeter accuracy everywhere throughout the state. I'm guessing there's probably some areas where they can't get that, but maybe that's there's just some areas where there's too hilly or too many trees and stuff like that. But for our purposes, it's been a really good solution. Basically, they built stations throughout the whole state of Iowa, and yeah, like I said, it provides sub-centimeter accuracy. So for environmental health, they go out and grab points with everything related with the septic system. And then the upper right, they create kind of a nice map that shows everything. So, the theory is when you go out and you grab, 3 or 4 inch accuracy or whatever it happens to be that you're able to get, you can go back there again and and find if there's a problem, or if they're, 20 years down the road, you need to access this information. It's pretty handy, and all this is kept in the cloud basically. So, their staff can go out with mobile devices, phones and tablets, and have all the information there, connect with a GPS unit, and yeah, just ready to go. So that technology has come really far. And planning and development, I know, has purchased a unit too, and they'll be accessing it for a lot of their needs too in the future. So anyway, that's really neat stuff, I think. All right, let's go to the next slide. So yeah, we have everything. We have Beacon, we have software that does all this neat stuff, but in the end, sometimes people just want printed maps. We just want a paper map to hang on the wall. And I think it's 20 years ago, people said, "Oh, we're getting rid of these paper maps. They'll be gone before." And no, they're always around. They're gonna be around for a little while longer. I think we use them less and less, but people still like to see a printed map on the wall, so everyone can kind of group around it. So there's still a need for it. So just a couple examples of maps that I've printed. On the left-hand side, those are the fire district boundaries and a lot of other information. Those are in our dispatch office. And then on the right is just voting precincts. A lot of parties, a lot of candidates will buy those, so they kind of see where the voting boundaries are. But yeah, we can also make those PDFs as well, so they're nice. Everything's hand placed and gets exactly how you want it to look. You can make it a PDF so that people can use it that way as well. So let's go to the next slide. I just want to talk a little bit about data sharing. And I wasn't sure kind of how to organize this, but basically we have a lot of different resources out there that either consume our data or we take their data. Just want to list a couple examples. Iowa Geographic Information Server is a really nice resource. They've got a lot of area photography, historical area photography available. Stuff from I think it's 1939, which is really wild to look at and think about. DOT has been doing a lot with their GIS data. DNR, City of Ames, like I mentioned, they're a heavy user, so we trade data back and forth, and we look at each other's data. Because they don't maintain parcel data, but it's really, really important to what they do. So they need to have updated, every day updated parcel data. We can't give them data that's a couple months old. That's just not very neighborly, I guess. So we try to share everything, and we work well with the people over there, I think. So we get a lot of data requests from the public, like parcel information. That seems like we always get requests for value information. When new values come out, all these companies that kind of aggregate that data and do a lot of analysis. And some counties charge for that data, but we don't. We just made the decision years ago to just give it all away for free, because in the end, we feel like it helps citizens of Story County. If everyone's educated with the best information out there, then everyone can make the best decisions. That's just kind of what we think. So a lot of aerial photography, like I said before, just got some aerial photography from a local engineering company that this is our data is the best that's out there, I guess you can say. You get asked, well, Google Maps has this data or such and such, and yeah, that's true, but our stuff is usually more accurate. Plus, we can't control what Google does. So if Google says, "Hey, we got rid of the 2014 images, and now it's 2020 images," and it's like, well, what if we want to see those 2014 images for historical purposes? And Google, you can't get them through there. So that's why we have a lot of the, we never get rid of an area photography layer. You can look through 20, 30 years of photography and see how a property's changed over the years. So yeah, I'm happy to help out with data requests. Then also, I kind of want to mention third-party applications. So yeah, like I said before, smartphones are really popular. Apple Maps, Google Maps, all these other different types of applications. They have methods for me or users to update their maps, so they can take our feedback. They can sometimes take our data. We've gotten calls for people that moved into a new subdivision. I think Huxley was a good example. Hey, I just moved here. FedEx, they can't find me. They don't know where I'm at. So can you help me out? And I do my best, but I can't control, their data. There's a couple different providers of services and data. So I update that data, and then periodically, FedEx updates Iowa or something for their delivery people. So every once in a while I'll have to update that data and make sure that people can get their packages. Amazon packages, everyone likes to have them delivered to their house. So instead of a couple blocks away, or just not at all. So we try to do our best to help out there as well. So anyway, go to the next slide. All right, well, that's my contact information, but do you want to switch over to the browser real quick? And we'll pop up the Beacon website. So the real website is beacon.schneidercorp.com. You can also which is kind of a lot to remember. So we have links elsewhere. I think you can actually go to storyassessor.org, and that'll just forward onto this as well. So, so that's pretty handy. And you can visit all their other counties and all their other clients as well. We've got a couple different methods to search: address, parcel ID, sort of advanced search if you want to search by a township, or most of the time it's parcel or address. So you want to put in, do you have a special address? We could put in, okay. We'll put in someone's address here. There we go. Oh, look at that. Very nice house. So yeah, we have a fairly recent photo. And I should mention, we do share this with Ames as well. So we have one portal, so you can go to the site and you can search for Ames or Story County addresses, or sometimes you don't know where it's at exactly. But yeah, I don't know, if you just want to scroll down, it's just kind of give the users, click on the property record card. If you want to click on that link, we'll see hopefully these live demos. Oh, there we go. Nice detailed list from the assessor's office. A lot of useful information there. I'll probably open in a new tab. You probably have to close that tab, maybe. Yeah, so it just has a lot of detailed information. Maybe keep scrolling down to the bottom just to see. Yeah, there's a lot. You can apply for homestead. We have a lot of people that do that, and then just another snapshot. But yeah, up at the top there, you can do the map, the search. We have some comp searches as well. Why don't you click on story comp just so we can see that. I want to thank Leanne too for helping me run this. I'm not doing anything, just telling Leanne what to do. So here we can just do, your commercial, agricultural, any sort of comp searching. So anyway, that's helpful for any sort of analysis that you want to do. Yeah, we probably should go look at the map too. If you want to click on the map to, yeah, click on that. Yeah, kind of what we were seeing before. In the lower left-hand side, there's just the left-hand side, there's a list of all the layers we added over the years, and they've actually been pretty nice to us. They haven't taken off a couple of those historical years of aerial photography, so that's pretty slick. Yeah, just kind of, I don't know if there's really much else to show there. Turn on any of those layers. You can do basic zooming in and zooming out, and you can look at, yeah, you should turn on the FEMA flood zone layer. It goes through Nevada. Yeah, and then if you click on, just click on another parcel then, so you can see that you can just, if you're looking at that one on the map, you say, hey, I want to know this information. Okay, yep, click on the report. Find information about that. So yeah, pretty slick. Oh, if you want to click on the pictometry imagery too, kind of show that as well. That's the kind of the bird's eye view. You can zoom in and zoom out, and you can change those arrows on the left, or yeah, you can change the direction if it's from north or south, east or west. That's pretty slick. Up at the top there too, I'll show that they're not gonna be a soil report for this parcel, but for our ag properties or soils reports, shows the CSR information. That's how ag property is is valued. Yeah, sorry. No, you're really zooming. I'm making Leanne really work to. Yeah, you can scroll down and it'll show just more information, kind of the detailed soils reports. So that's kind of a cool process. I didn't really get a chance to talk about that much, but that's more of the interaction of layers. It's kind of like a cookie cutter process. It takes the parcel boundary and then cuts out the soil polygons and then averages like, well, what kind of CSRs, what kind of soils are underneath these, the acres of each, and then the value associated with that. So, so pretty neat. Can you go to some of those other websites? I know that little bar kind of gets in the way. Yeah, let's go to the subdivision search. So in the left-hand side, you can just start typing in that where it says subdivision name, start typing in Bella, Bella, and hopefully it pops up. Okay, so it does hop up. So do Bella Woods, it'll pop up. That's kind of neat. And then if you click on that more info link, hopefully this will all work like it should. So that's a PDF, and that's a really huge document that we scanned in and made a PDF with all that detailed information. Yeah, so that was a pretty big project for the recorder's office and I. And if you want to do the polling place finder, that's good too. You can just type in whatever address you want to. There you go. And yeah, so that has information. There is on the right-hand side, there's information. So if you scroll down, you can see we do have some sample ballot information. I think that needs to be updated, but it is there. Yeah, obviously next election, I need to update that. So go to directions. It will do a kind of a cool thing. It should do the driving directions in case you don't know where you have to go vote. It should, well, something's like, well, you're a minute. Oh yeah, there he goes. So you're 1 minute away from your your polling location. That's pretty handy. Anyway, I think that's about all I want to show. Does anybody have any questions? Is there, Leanne, maybe you can help out? Is there anything you want me to cover that I didn't cover? It's kind of a quick overview. So Leanne's question was how many internal users for GIS we have at Story County? I think we have about 25 licenses, and there's probably a handful more that use the ArcGIS Online, which is an online aspect of this. I think then everyone uses Beacon, so I don't know. I feel like we have the really, really heavy users. There's probably at least 25, and then there's much more that use the Beacon website. Maybe everybody does for one purpose or another. I know Dispatch uses it periodically, Sheriff's Office. Yeah, just every department, I think. So the question was about special access for drainage information. No, that should be available for everyone. That should all be on there. It's just a layer you would have to check mark so it's visible on the map. But yeah, and then now with the new information on that report, there'll be more tabular information that's available to everybody as well. Because yeah, I think we had, who was it? I don't know if it was abstractors or people wanted to know if there were upcoming payments that needed to be made. We'll have the future payments in there, so they want to know how many more future payments are going to be made necessary for this property. So good questions. Thank you. I don't know. I think I guess I don't know if you want to put my email address back up there or it's on the PowerPoint, but I guess if anybody has any questions, email is probably the best way to get a hold of me. Or I'm also just right down the hall, so you can just stop by, right by Leanne actually. So come and talk to us and ask us any questions. Yeah, I guess I'll mention too, one of the bigger projects we worked on recently was the census, the new census of 2020. That was a kind of a rushed year, so we had to develop all new voting precincts. That was pretty wild. Talk to Lucy about that sometime. I'm sure she wants to forget some of those years. It was really difficult to get all that done, but that was a neat aspect of GIS. I actually like putting those pieces together and developing new voting precincts. I thought that was a really neat tool. So once every 10 years, we'll do that. But anyway, I don't know if that's it. Kind of guess thanks everyone for attending, and I'm glad to do these types of things and talk about GIS because I think it's really neat. So anyway, if you have any questions, let me know, and we'll talk to you later. So thank you very much.